Reading through the Bible in a year, November 12th, 2 Kings chapter 25, Hebrews 7, Amos chapter 1, and Psalm 144. Now, in the 9th year of his reign, on the 10th day of the 10th month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his military force, against Jerusalem. And he camped against it and built a siege wall all around it. So the city came under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. On the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so strong in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Then the city was broken into, and all the men of war fled by night by way of the gate between the two walls beside the king's garden, though the Chaldeans were all around the city, and they went by way of the Arabah. But the military force of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his military force was scattered from him. Then they seized the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, and they spoke their judgment on him. And they slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, remember, eye to eye, and blinded the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with bronze fetters and brought him to Babylon. We read about this as we read through the book of Jeremiah. Now, on the 7th day of the 5th month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. And he burned the house of Yahweh, the king's house, and all of the houses of Jerusalem. Even every great house he burned with fire. So all the military force of the Chaldeans who were with the captain of the guard tore down the walls around Jerusalem. Then the rest of the people who were left in the city, and the defectors who had defected to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the multitude, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took away into exile. But the captain of the guard left some of the poorest of the land to be vine dressers and plowmen. Now, the bronze pillars which were in the house of Yahweh, and the stands and the bronze sea which were in the house of Yahweh, the Chaldeans shattered and carried the bronze to Babylon. They also took away the pots, the shovels, the snuffers, the spoons, and all the bronze vessels which were used to minister. The captain of the guard also took away the fire pans, the bowls, and what was fine gold and what was of fine silver, the 2 pillars and the 1 sea, and the stands which Solomon had made for the house of Yahweh. The bronze of all these vessels was beyond weight. The height of one of the pillars was 18 cubits, and a bronze capital was on it. And the height of the capital was 3 cubits, with a network of pomegranates on the capital all around, all of bronze. And the second pillar was like these with network. Why is this happening? Because God is showing them that he has left Jerusalem, he has left his city, that he is done with it. Then the captain of the guard took Sariah the chief priest and Zephaniah the second priest with the 3 doorkeepers of the temple. And from the city he took one official who was overseer of the men of war, and 5 of the king's advisers who were found in the city, and the scribe of the commander of the army who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land who were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took them and led them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. And the king of Babylon struck them down and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah went into exile from its land. Now, as for the people who were left in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, he appointed Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, over them. Then all the commanders of the military forces, they and all their men, heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah governor. So they came to Gedaliah to Mizpah, namely Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, Johanan the son of Kareah, and Sariah the son of Tanhumeth the Netophathite, and Jaazaniah the son of the Maacathite, they and their men. Then Gedaliah swore to them and to their men, saying, "Do not be afraid of the servants of the Chaldeans. Live in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it will be well with you. But it happened in the 7th month that Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, of the royal seed, came with 10 men and struck Gedaliah down so that he died, along with the Jews and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. Then all the people, both small and great, and the commanders of the military forces arose and went to Egypt. We also read about all these things in the book of Jeremiah, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. Now it happened in the 37th year. I want to make sure we don't lose the notes here. There's a lot of really good notes in this section that kind of touch on the things that were happening at the time. Strongly recommend reading these. Now it happened in the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 27th day of the month, that Evil-Merodach, king of Babylon, evil's not a statement about him, it's his name, in the year that he became king, lifted up the head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, from prison. And he spoke to him good words, and set his throne above the throne of the kings who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiachin changed his prison clothes, and had his meals in the king's presence continually all the days of his life. And for his allowance, a continual allowance was given him by the king, a portion for each day, all the days of his life. Move on now to Hebrews chapter 7. The author of Hebrews continues. Remember how I said yesterday that we are going through we're basically going to go into a lot more detail about the things that were going on within the church, within the temple itself, and how these things pertain directly to Jesus as the Christ. That day is today. Verse 1. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, what's this about? Rolling back 2 verses, this hope that we have is an anchor of the soul, a hope both sure and confirmed, and one which enters within the veil. This is entering into past the veil into the Holy of Holies, into the presence of God, where a forerunner has entered for us, Jesus, having become a high priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. We talked about Melchizedek before. As we're about to read here, we don't know when he lived. We don't know when he died. We just know that he existed. We don't know much about his lineage except that he was the king of Salem and a priest of God. That's all that we understand. Now, Salem means peace, so he's a king of peace. Is he a Christophany, an appearance of Jesus in the Old Testament? Possibly. We don't know. All we know about Melchizedek as a person is what we can discern from from the book of Genesis, that he was a highly respected priest of God. He was the king of peace, that everybody gave him honor and praise, and that Abraham, the patriarch, gave him a 10th of all his spoils. He paid him a tithe. You only do this to somebody who's greater than you. That's all we know. We don't know where he came from. We don't know when he was born. We don't know who his parents were. We don't know who he fathered, right? And we don't know when he died. Therefore, because we know none of these things, he's a priest forever. For all we know, he may still be living. That's the point being made. Kind of a stretch. We don't really know. There's a lot of people who say that Melchizedek is a Christophany, but we don't know that for certain. Let's go and read through what the author of Hebrews has to say on this subject. Back to verse 1. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, a priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham as he was returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom Abraham apportioned a 10th part of all. He was first of all, by the translation of his name, king of righteousness, then also king of Salem, which is king of peace, without father, without mother, without genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like the Son of God. He remains a priest continually. Now, observe how this great man was to whom Abraham, the patriarch, gave a tenth of his spoils. And those indeed of the sons of Levi who receive the priest's office have a commandment in the law to collect a tenth from the people, that is, from their brothers, although these are descended from Abraham. But the one whose genealogy is not traced from them had collected a tenth from Abraham, and blessed the one who had the promises. So he received this gift, and he gave a blessing to Abraham. But the one whose genealogy is not traced, I already said that, verse 7, but without any dispute, the lesser is blessed by the greater. So he's saying, clearly this Melchizedek is greater even than Abraham. That's the point he's making. And in this case, mortal men receive tithes, but in that case, one receives them, of whom it is witnessed that he lives on. And so to speak, though through Abraham, even Levi, who received tithes, paid tithes, for he was still in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. Kind of a weird statement. There isn't really a whole lot here to this point. The most that we have is from the ESV Study Bible. I'll read that note because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The author's reasoning is that the offspring of Abraham, especially Levi, who share in Abraham's promises, also share in Abraham's tithe to Melchizedek, and therefore Levitical priesthood is inferior to the that's a hard one to say, Melchizedekian priesthood. That's the point being made. Continuing on. Now, if perfection was through the Levitical priesthood, right, for on the basis of it, people receive the law, right? If perfection can come through the law, this is tying back to what Paul said in the book of Romans. Well, what further need was there for another priest to arise according to the order of Melchizedek, a higher priest, right? And not be designated according to the order of Aaron. For when the priesthood is changed, of necessity, there takes place a change of the law also. Not that the law is null and void, but you have a new priest coming in. For the one concerning whom these things are spoken belongs to another tribe, from which no one has officiated at the altar. Melchizedek doesn't come from the lineage of Abraham. He was already grown and an adult when he met Abraham. And that was when he met him. And Jesus also, he doesn't come from the tribe of Levi. Those are the priests. Who does he come through? He comes through Judah. Same thing being spoken of here. For it is evident that our Lord was descended from Judah, a tribe with which to Moses spoke nothing concerning priests. And this is clearer still. If another priest arises according to the likeness of Melchizedek, who has become such not according to the law of a physical requirement, his genetic lineage, but according to the power of an indestructible life. For it is witnessed about him, you are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. For on the one hand, there is a setting aside of former commandment because of its weakness and uselessness. For the law itself makes nothing perfect. Again, what is the law? But it's a standard. That's it. Nothing more. It is the standard by which we know the perfection of God, by which we know, what we must do in order to obtain salvation. We must perfectly fulfill the law of God. But there's no process given to us by the law. It's a signpost and nothing more. It says, you must be this perfect to enter into my rest. That's what he's saying here. Back to verse, I'll read verse 18 here. For on the one hand, there is a setting aside of a former commandment because of its weakness and uselessness. For the law made nothing perfect. And on the other hand, there is a bringing in of a better hope, through which we draw near to God. Why is this? Well, because there is no hope from the law. All there is condemnation. That's all the law can do. It can condemn you or it can confirm you. If you perfectly keep the law, it will confirm you. If you fail at any possible step, you're condemned. That's all you have. There's nothing else available. It's all that the law provides. So what is this better hope? Our better hope is Christ. He is the one who kept it for us on our behalf. That's the point being made. Verse 20. And inasmuch as it was not without an oath, for they indeed became priests without an oath, but he with an oath through the one who said to him, the Lord has sworn, and will not change his mind, you are a priest forever. So much more, Jesus also has become the guarantee of a better covenant. And the former priests, on the one hand, existed in greater numbers because they were prevented by death from continuing. But Jesus, on the other hand, because he continues forever, he died, he was risen again, and he will live forever, holds his priesthood permanently. Therefore, he is able also to save forever those who draw near to God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them. For it was fitting for us to have such a high priest, holy, innocent, undefiled, separated from sinners, and exalted above the heavens, who does not need daily, like those other high priests, to offer up sacrifices, first for his own sins, and then for the sins of the people, because he did this once for all, when he offered himself up. For the law appoints men as high priests, men who are weak. But the word of an oath, which came after the law, appoints a son who has been made perfect forever. Move on now to the book of the prophet Amos. We're in the new book. Let's go ahead and read the introduction. Amos, possibly the first of the writing prophets, writing, W-R-I-T-I-N-G, not riding like on a horse, was a shepherd and a farmer called to prophesy during the reigns of Uzziah, 792 to 740 BC, in the southern kingdom, and Jeroboam II, 793 through 753, in the north. During this time, both kingdoms enjoyed political stability, which was rare in that time, which in turn brought prosperity. It was also a time of idolatry, extravagance, and corruption. The rich and powerful were oppressing the poor. Amos denounced the people of Israel for their apostasy and social injustice, and warned them that disaster would fall upon them for breaking the covenant. He urged them to leave the hypocrisy of their solemn assemblies and said to let justice roll down like waters. Nevertheless, said Amos, God would remember his covenant with Israel and would restore a faithful remnant. Let's begin. The words of Amos, who was among the sheep herders from Tekoa, which he beheld in visions concerning Israel in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel, 2 years before the earthquake. And he said, Yahweh roars from Zion, and from Jerusalem he gives forth his voice. And the shepherd's pasture grounds mourn, and the top of Carmel dries up. Thus says Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Damascus, and for 4 I will not turn back its punishment, because they threshed Gilead with implements of sharp iron. So I will send fire upon the house of Hazael, and it will consume the citadels of Ben-Hadad. I will also break the gate bar of Damascus, and cut off the inhabitant from the valley of Beth-aven, and him who upholds the scepter from Beth-eden. So the people of Aram will go into exile to Kir, says Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Gaza, and for 4 I will not turn back its punishment, because they took away into exile the whole community of exiles to deliver it up to Edom. So I will send fire upon the wall of Gaza, and it will consume her citadels. It will also cut off the inhabitant from Ashdod, and him who holds the scepter from Ashkelon. I will even turn my hand against Ekron, and the remnant of the Philistines will perish, says Lord Yahweh. Thus says Lord Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Tyre, and for 4 I will not turn back its punishment, because they delivered up the whole community of exiles to Edom, and did not remember the covenant of brotherhood. So I will send fire upon the wall of Tyre, and it will consume her citadels. Thus says Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn back its punishment, because he pursued brother with the sword while he corrupted his compassion. And his anger also tore continually, and he kept his wrath forever. So I will send fire upon Taman, and it will consume the citadels of Basra. Thus says Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of the sons of Ammon, and for 4 I will not turn back its punishment, because they ripped open the pregnant women of Gilead in order to enlarge their borders. So I will kindle a fire on the wall of Rabbah, and it will consume her citadels, amid a loud shout on the day of battle, and a storm on the day of tempest. And their king will go into exile, he and his princes together, says Yahweh. This is a recurring kind of a cycle we're going to read throughout this book. Moving on to Psalm 144. Blessed be Yahweh, my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle, my loving kindness and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield and he in whom I take refuge, who subdues my people under me. O Yahweh, what is man that you know him, or the son of man that you think of him? Man is like a breath, his days are like a passing shadow. O Yahweh, bow your heavens and come down. Touch the mountains so that they may smoke. Flash forth lightning and scatter them. Send out your arrows and confuse them. Send forth your hand from on high. Set me free and deliver me out of many waters, out of the hand of foreigners, whose mouth speaks worthlessness, and whose right hand is a right hand of lying. O God, I will sing a new song to you. Upon a harp of 10 strings, I will sing praises to you. Who gives salvation to kings, who sets David his servant free from the evil sword. Set me free and deliver me out of the hand of the sons of a foreigner, whose mouth speaks worthlessness, and whose right hand is a right hand of lying. That our sons would be as grown-up plants in their youth, and our daughters as corner pillars, fashioned as for a palace. That our granaries will be full, furnishing every kind of produce, and our flocks would bring forth thousands and 10,000s in our fields outside. That our cattle would bear, without mishap and without loss, and without outcry in our streets. How blessed are the people for whom this is so. How blessed are the people for whom God is Yahweh. That's it for today. That's all the reading and all the notes. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, word of the Lord.